Chapter 1. The Invitation. It was a crisp October evening when Emily, Sarah, and Mike decided to explore the old abandoned house on the outskirts of town. Legend had it that the house was cursed, the site of numerous unexplained disappearances over the decades. Drawn by their curiosity and a desire for a thrill, the trio ventured into the dilapidated mansion, armed with nothing but flashlights and an old Ouija board that Sarah had found in her grandmother's attic. The air inside the house was thick with dust and the scent of decay. As they navigated through the creaking corridors, they found a large, empty room that seemed perfect for their seance. They set the Ouija board on a dusty table in the center, lit a few candles, and sat around it, their faces illuminated by the flickering light. "Is everyone ready?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. Mike and Emily nodded. They placed their fingers on the planchette, and Sarah began to speak. "Spirits of this house, we invite you to communicate with us. Are you here?" For a few moments, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the planchette began to move. Emily's heart raced as she watched it slide across the board, spelling out a chilling message. Y-E-S. Yes. "Who are you?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The planchette moved again, this time more quickly. D-A-R-K. Dark. A chill ran down Mike's spine. "What do you want?" B-L-O-O-D. Blood. They all pulled their hands away simultaneously, breaking the connection. The room grew colder, and a sudden gust of wind extinguished the candles, plunging them into darkness. Chapter 2. The Unseen. In the pitch-black room, the air seemed to vibrate with a malevolent presence. Emily fumbled for her flashlight, her hands shaking. When she finally turned it on, the beam revealed the Ouija board, the planchette now pointing to the word goodbye. "We need to leave," Mike said urgently. But as they turned to exit, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Panic set in. Sarah reached for the door handle, but it was locked tight. "What do we do now?" she cried. Emily scanned the room with her flashlight, its beam revealing shadows that seemed to shift and writhe. "We need to stay calm," she said, though her voice quivered. "Maybe there's another way out." Mike pointed to a small, dusty window near the ceiling. "We could try to break that and climb out." As they moved towards the window, a low, guttural growl echoed through the room. They froze, the sound chilling them to their core. The growl grew louder, closer, until it seemed to be coming from right behind them. Emily turned slowly, her flashlight revealing a figure in the corner. It was barely visible, a dark silhouette with glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "Run!" she screamed, but as they bolted towards the window, the figure lunged at them. Mike felt a searing pain across his back, as if claws had raked through his flesh. He stumbled, but Sarah and Emily managed to help him up, their adrenaline pushing them forward. They reached the window and, with frantic effort, broke the glass. Sarah climbed through first, followed by Emily. Mike, bloodied and weak, was the last to escape. As he squeezed through the narrow opening, he felt something cold and clammy grasp his ankle, trying to pull him back inside. With a desperate kick, he broke free and tumbled out onto the cold, hard ground outside. Chapter 3. The Haunting. They ran as fast as they could back to Sarah's house, not daring to look back. Once inside, they locked all the doors and windows, drawing the curtains tightly. Mike's wounds were deep, but not life-threatening. Sarah hurriedly bandaged him up, her hands shaking. "What was that thing?" Emily asked, her voice trembling with fear. "I don't know," Sarah replied, "but we clearly angered something." As they sat in the living room, the house seemed eerily quiet. The silence was oppressive, each creak and groan of the old house making them jump. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the room was plunged into darkness. Emily's flashlight had died, leaving them in complete blackness. From the darkness came a whisper, barely audible but unmistakable. "You cannot escape." Emily fumbled for her phone, using its weak light to scan the room. The shadows seemed to move of their own accord, growing longer and more sinister. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it, the same figure from the abandoned house, standing in the doorway. "How did it follow us?" Mike gasped, his voice filled with terror. Sarah grabbed the Ouija board, her face set with determination. "We need to end this. We need to send it back." They placed the board on the coffee table and once again put their fingers on the planchette. Sarah spoke quickly, her voice shaking. "Spirit, we command you to leave. Return to where you came from." The planchette began to move, but this time it was violent, almost as if the spirit was resisting their command. It spelled out one final word, N-E-V-E-R. Never. The room grew colder, and the figure stepped closer, its red eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The friends could feel an overwhelming sense of dread, their hearts pounding in their chests. Chapter 4. The Descent. Desperation gripped them as the entity advanced. Emily's mind raced, searching for anything that might save them. Salt. Spirits can't cross a line of salt, she remembered from old folklore. She dashed to the kitchen, returning with a container of table salt. As she poured a circle around them, the figure stopped, its eyes narrowing. The air hummed with tension, the entity seemingly held at bay by the fragile barrier. But Emily knew this was only a temporary solution. "We need to destroy the board," Mike suggested. "If it's our connection to the spirit, maybe breaking it will sever the link." With no better plan, they agreed. Mike picked up the board and, with all his strength, snapped it in half. A blood-curdling scream filled the room, reverberating through their very bones. The figure recoiled, its form distorting in the air, but it did not disappear. "It's not enough," Sarah cried. "We have to burn it." They rushed to the fireplace, throwing the broken pieces of the board into the flames. As the wood began to crackle and burn, the figure let out a final, deafening scream. The sound was unbearable, like nails on a chalkboard mixed with the wail of 1,000 souls. The entity twisted and writhed, its form flickering like a dying flame. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. The house was silent once more, the oppressive weight lifted from their chests. The lights flickered back on, and they stood there, breathless and shaken. Days later, as they tried to return to normalcy, they couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered. The shadows in Sarah's house seemed darker, the nights colder. They had survived, but at what cost? Each of them bore unseen scars, a constant reminder that some doors should never be opened, and some spirits should never be summoned. And in the darkest corners of their minds, they could still hear the whisper, "You cannot escape."